Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Hong Kong's poverty rate shoots up to its highest since records began. More questions for the quarantine exemption policy after 3 pilots come down with COVID. And President Xi Jinping says China is ready to work with the United States. Poverty in Hong Kong has worsened, affecting almost 1 in 4 people, with COVID taking most of the blame. The rate is the highest in the city since records began, but the numbers declined when government subsidies are taken into account. Johanna Chen reports.
Hong Kong's poverty rate is at its highest since the city began records in 2009. The city's poverty line is half the median monthly household income according to household size. An individual with a monthly income of $4,400 would fall below the poverty line. And for a 5-person household, it would be $20,000. Last year, more than 1.65 million people lived in poverty, up 160,000 from the previous year. In 2020, Hong Kong's poverty rate stood at 23.6%, a 2.2 percentage rise from 2019. This means that nearly 1 in 4 people lived in poverty. But taking into account government policies and measures, including public housing and cash handouts, the number fell to 554,000 people, with the rate at 7.9%. The increase had been expected, as unemployment surged and incomes plunged because of COVID. Large families were hardest hit.
Because of the anti-virus measures, and there are many control on those restaurants, shops, or daily behavior or jobs. So for these people, many of them, they use up their savings. So they need jobs, they need working opportunity. And some of them, actually, the mother, they need to stop their work because they need to stay at home to take care of their children, because their children have a long time, cannot go to school.
Xi called on the government to review COVID measures and formulate policies to help people gain full employment. Johanna Chan, HKIBC.
Health officials have been grilled over the current quarantine exemption policy after a 3rd flight crew member was found to be infected with COVID. The crew member was one of 5 imported cases today. Alman Lee reports.
Health officials had some jarring news. Another aircrew member was found to be infected after 2 Cathay Pacific cargo flight pilots were confirmed to be COVID positive. The latest patient is a non-local crew member who arrived from Qatar on Monday. Authorities believe the 2 other pilots were infected during recent trips to Germany and Dubai.
One of the cases, he need to have close contact, face-to-face contact with ground staff in that airport, and they did not wear masks, although he himself has wear a mask. So we suspected that either one of them or both of them might have contact with other confirmed cases in overseas countries and acquired the infection.
Around 200 people identified as the pilot's close contacts have been quarantined. They included the family members of a 57-year-old pilot who lives in Discovery Bay. The international school where his wife teaches and 2 sons study has been recommended to shut while awaiting mass testing results. Harbour Pinnacle in Tsim Sha Tsui, where a 29-year-old pilot lives, was unsealed this morning after an overnight test detected no case. The cases involving aircrew members have reignited a controversy over the city's quarantine exemption policy. The government is revoking exemption privileges for most people from Friday, but aircrew members remain on the revised list.
We will work with the Transport and Housing Bureau's colleagues to further review if there's a possibility to consider further restrict the movement of the exempted person aircrew in Hong Kong, including the location of the isolation or quarantines in Hong Kong.
The other imported cases today include a foreign domestic worker from the Philippines and a 15-year-old girl arriving from Italy via Qatar. Alman Lee, HKIBC.
New Zealand is losing its status as the only place recognized by Hong Kong as a low-risk COVID country. This comes as the SAR is likely to extend the compulsory use of the Leave Home Safe app to all eateries as it tries to persuade the mainland to reopen the border. More from Alman Lee.
The contact tracing Leave Home Safe app is currently mandated at Type C and D restaurants, which can accommodate up to 12 diners per table. The government is considering extending the rule to Type B eateries, which can seat up to 4 people a table, and which allows them to fill in their personal data on paper. Those in the trade expect the extension to also cover Type A restaurants soon.
係得一個目的嘅啫，其實大家都知啊，就係大家想通關啊嘛。
Restaurateur Simon Wong said the goal of such a mandate is to persuade China to resume quarantine-free cross-border travel. He said it's common sense that the compliance of more premises is needed to satisfy the mainland. Authorities meanwhile stripped New Zealand of its low-risk country status. From next Wednesday, the Pacific nation will be considered medium risk because of its new living with the virus approach. This means fully vaccinated arrivals from New Zealand will have to spend 2 weeks in hotel quarantine instead of 1. No country is now recognized by Hong Kong as low risk. Ultimately, HKIBC.
A student has been sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in jail for rioting 2 years ago. Wan Ka-lam pleaded guilty to 2 counts of rioting in Mong Kok and Prince Edward stations on August 31st, 2019. The 22-year-old was accused of threatening train passengers with a hiking stake. He and other protesters damaged turnstiles, security cameras, and the station control room. This is the first riot conviction involving the August 31st incident, in which police stormed Prince Edward Station. The High Court says former Next Digital Chief Executive Chen Kim-hong had his bail application denied last week because he remains influential in endangering national security. Judge Susana de Almeida Remedios today said Chen is still a director of Next Digital's Taiwan subsidiaries and has access to their capital of about $141 million. She added Taiwan's Apple Daily had made unfounded allegations against the SAR government and police after the national security law was enacted. Remedios concluded there are substantial and real risks that Chen will continue to endanger national security with his ties and connections. An auxiliary police officer has been injured by a wild boar which was found wandering in North Point. The officer sustained injuries to his wrist, bottom, and right calf. He was attacked by the wild boar, which was spotted in the Podium car park of Fly Dragon Terrace late last night. The Agriculture, Fisheries, and Conservation Department was trying to catch the animal when it suddenly charged at the officer. The boar was killed after falling 10 meters into the ground from the car park. President Xi Jinping says China is ready to work with the United States on the basis of mutual respect. This came as a Sino-US video summit is expected to take place soon. Wong reports.
Unexpected diplomacy happened at an annual gala dinner at the Luxury Plaza Hotel in New York. The event was hosted by the nonprofit National Committee on U.S.-China Relations and attended by Qin Gang, China's ambassador to the United States. Qin read a letter penned by President Xi Jinping in which the Chinese leader stressed the importance of getting back on the right track in improving Sino-U.S. relations.
Right now, China-U.S. relations are at a critical historical juncture. Both countries will gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Cooperation is the only right choice. Following the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, China stands ready to work with the United States to enhance exchanges and cooperation across the board.
The letter comes as Xi and his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden are set to meet virtually as early as next week. But the sign of goodwill was in stark contrast to what happened in the Taiwan Strait. China is furious that a group of U.S. lawmakers visited Taiwan briefly yesterday evening. They landed in a military plane before taking off again for Okinawa. In Beijing, the Taiwan Affairs Office held a press conference in which spokeswoman Zhu Fenglian condemned Washington's military ties with the island. Foreign Affairs spokesman Wong called the visit a clumsy performance and accused the lawmakers of playing with fire. Wong, HKIBC.
And coming up after the break. Tensions simmer over a migrant crisis on the border between Poland and Belarus.